So welcome to another episode of Live from my living room. Of course it's not, it's Creative Mornings. The theme for this month is purpose. It was picked by our Indianapolis chapter and the illustration is by Jason Ratcliffe. Creative Mornings is a global event. We have 215 chapters over 67 countries with more than 20,000 attendees a month, and it's growing kind of month on month, new chapters popping up. Creative Mornings is, as you know as well, a free event, and globally it's a free event, and it wouldn't be able to exist, to run, without the generosity of the global sponsors. And because of the current situation, each of the global sponsors are running exclusive offers at the moment for Creative Mornings attendees. And as I just go through the slides, Molly will be popping the details in the chat with the links to the offers if any of them sound of interest to you. So MailChimp, they're the people responsible for gazillions of newsletters that go out every day, including our own. And Creative Mornings have worked with them for a number of years now, and currently they are offering 3 months free off their standard newsletter plan. That offer expires on the 30th of April. So if you would be interested, if you're thinking of adding some newsletters to your business, then look into that. And like I said, Molly should be sharing the link. Or, you know, if you need it afterwards, just tweet Creative Mornings and I'll send it through. WordPress, the people behind, I don't know, 98% of the internet. I've made that statistic up, but they have huge numbers of websites, and they are offering 20% off any added features that you might want to put onto their kind of basic templates. And again, just follow through on the link. Basecamp is a new global sponsor to Creative Mornings this year. They help teams, organizations, and individuals manage projects, and they are offering a whopping 6 months free off their Basecamp business plan. In order to get that, you need to take a selfie with your computer, like that, and show that you're at a Creative Mornings event. And then if you email that through to this address, they'll be in touch about getting the 6 months free. And locally, also, we wouldn't be able to run without the kind generosity of our sponsors and supporters. And our main sponsor is the Art and Design Department at Sheffield University. We should have been having our March event with them in their lovely post office building, but unfortunately it wasn't to be. You know, it takes a global plague to stop Creative Mornings running properly. But you know, that's what we had to do. So we're hoping to be back there as soon as possible in person, you know, as soon as this blows over. And we'd also like to thank our supporter, the Site Gallery. They have obviously been affected by what's going on as well, and they've had to close, but they are working towards bringing a program of events online. They have the last couple of weeks started putting some things online as Instagram takeovers. So if you want to follow their social media accounts or look on their website, they're publishing details as and when they set things up online. So we're working to a much more stripped back team today. There's myself, obviously, the host, and there's Molly, who usually is responsible for the live tweeting and the newsletters, but Molly's running the chat for me today, and then we'll be doing the newsletters afterwards. And there's Joe, who is watching today. Hi, Joe. He loves this picture. He's usually our team photographer. And Matt, who is usually our videographer. Zoom's doing the video today. And hi, Rich. I know Rich is watching. Rich is our team hero. So he basically helps whenever we call on him with anything we need him to do. And I think I think Lucy's watching as well. All our regulars know Lucy. She is our lovely greeter, the smiley face when you come to our events every month. But unfortunately, she wasn't needed to greet me as I walked into my living room this morning. So she's chilling at home. And Jack's watching. I know Jack's watching. Jack's our team illustrator and general helper on event days. Jack's actually, each month he creates a portrait illustration of our speakers, which I then can share on Instagram, and he's a very talented illustrator. So if you want to follow his work, look at his hashtag. But my husband has had to be stepping in for Jack this morning, and so I'm sure Jack can sympathise with him, what it's like with the, can you do this, hold this. Yeah, I can get a bit demanding. So the hashtags this month, if you want to share anything on Twitter and Instagram, the usual CM Sheffield, and this month is CM Purpose. And just introduce now our speaker, Eelyn Lee, who is an award-winning artist and filmmaker. Eelyn's work has been displayed nationally and internationally, from the Tate Modern to Berlin to Sheffield's own site gallery. And we're very pleased that she has been able to join us this morning and are looking forward to hearing more about her practice. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen now so I can hand it over to Eelyn. If I can, my mouse isn't. Okay. So, Eelyn, it's over to you now. You're off mute.
Thanks, Leanne. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me all right? Cool.
Do thumbs up if you can hear Eelyn.
Thank you. I'm not just speaking into my computer silently. Okay, thank you. Thanks for inviting me. It's my first Creative Morning, so it's been great learning about these worldwide sessions. I've not come across it before. So I'll definitely be along to the next one, whether it's on here or out in the real world. So I look forward to meeting some more of you then. Just a little bit about my background. I've lived in Sheffield now for about 6 years, and previously I was in East London, where much of my work was embedded in communities there. And I think, as you probably know by now, a lot of my work is made through collaboration. I've collaborated a lot with young people, as well as other artists from a range of art forms, a lot of poets, musicians, theatre practitioners, actors. And as an artist and a filmmaker, I've got a foot in the art world and a foot in the film industry. So I did a degree in fine art, actually, at Bretton Hall. It was Bretton Hall, where the Yorkshire Sculpture Park is, which many of you will have been to. I studied a very traditional fine art course there, and then came to filmmaking sort of a bit later when I was in London. So I'm currently writing a short film script with Sheffield-based author Desiree Reynolds, which is based on her short story that was published in the Book of Sheffield last year. And I'm also writing my first narrative feature film, which is set on the Thames estuary and explores ideas of the British Empire through the Western and horror genres. So that's my kind of like first foray into more narrative filmmaking, if you like. So for today's talk, I'm going to be sharing my screen with you. Sometimes I'll be reading from notes, and sometimes I'll just be freestyling. I've got a few video clips to play for you, which should come through okay. You'll probably get the best listening experience if you're using headphones. So let's hope the technology holds out. Right, I'm going to share my screen with you. So, hang on, I've got to just big that a little bit. Sharing this one. Oh, hang on, let me just check it's showing audio. No, it's not. There you go. Optimize and share. Okay, I'm working with two screens here, so just bear with me. Luckily, I tidied up my desktop before I shared it. That's as tidy as it gets. Let's see. Aha. Oh, no, I'm just going to go with that. Otherwise, it shows me too many things. Okay. So some of you will know I was scheduled to speak last month on the theme of identity. And unfortunately, because I wasn't well, we postponed to today. So here I am now, talking on 2 months worth of Creative Mornings themes, identity and purpose. So I've tried to weave both themes into this talk about my practice, which is titled, That's Not All of Me. Here we go. Given the times we're in right now, everything seems to be imbued with a different context and meaning. Our daily lives are certainly very different, and many of our priorities will have shifted, personally, locally, nationally, and globally. So as an artist, the question of what's my purpose in the world is paramount at the moment. And as people, we're renegotiating our relationships in our domestic spaces, in our neighborhoods, in online spaces, and through the media. We may be physically distant, but we are socially connected, in some cases like never before. So how does this affect our sense of ourselves, our identities, when the whole world is fighting this new common enemy that knows no borders? Does living this shared experience on a global scale build a sense of becoming citizens of the world? And how can we even make that judgment when much of our news is focused on a national response? I'm not going to attempt to answer these questions today, but rather they're there to keep in mind when I'm talking about my practice, as much of it over the past 20 years has explored notions of identity. And reading past projects with today's eyes might just give us a few clues about the future. So for today, I've broken identity down into 3 sort of subheadings. And the first one is speculative fictions. Many of my past projects have involved me collaborating with groups of people to devise fictional characters. They're often inspired by people's lived experiences. These characters have manifested themselves as superheroes, goddesses, giants, animated characters, and fictional characters in a real-world setting. The projects often use storytelling devices, such as poetry, song, rap, myths, and folk tales, to imagine narratives that experiment with versions of self and speculate on alternative scenarios, creating a kind of temporary liberation from the present to reimagine a different future. In 2004, I spent a year in a pupil referral unit in Hackney, East London, working in collaboration with young people who'd been excluded from school. So together we made a film portrait about the place. Now these young people were not going to suddenly open up about their stories. So we had to come up with a new way of making this film. And then we chanced upon the idea of inventing 2 fictional characters, Bradley and Chantel. We imagined they'd both been excluded from mainstream school and had recently arrived at the referral unit. I brought in a graffiti artist who worked with us to visualize the characters, and a poet who facilitated workshops in writing poetry in the voices of Bradley and Chantel. And the young people loved it. They ran with it, and so did the staff, who would talk about Bradley and Chantel as if they were real students. So what you get here is young people telling their own stories through fictional characters. a device that they could hide behind, like a mask or an avatar. So I'm just going to play you a trailer for the film, so that gives you a little flavour of it. It's on my main desktop. So the full film is 57 minutes long, and the full film is on my website, so you can go and have a look there if you like.
I was excluded for too much fighting, settling down in classes, just stuff like that, innit?
Scary, because there was bare boys there. When I first come to Danny House, it was scary.
Chantal Backoff is like a character that basically is strong-minded, strong-willing, everything. She's something that every girl wanted to be, but as amazing as you really think she is, do you really want to become Chantal? What do you think?
I think she's a lot about me, you know. Like, she can be quiet at times, but she is loud. And she can be rude when she wants to. Yeah, that's it. She's like me.
Thrown in this place and it feels so wrong, but now I have to accept this is where I belong. Thrown in this place and it feels so wrong, but now I have to accept this is where I belong. Walked in the school for the very first day. The sight of my race nearly took my breath away. The fact that most of the faces were black. Is this generation really being held back? Gain my respect by my lyrical beat.
Sorry.
So wrong, but now I have to accept this is where I belong. Thrown in this place and it feels so wrong, but now I have to accept this is where I belong. Walked in the school for the very first day. The sight of my race nearly took my breath away. The fact that most of the faces were black. Is this generation really being held back? Gain my respect by my lyrical beat. Don't mess with me cause you will really get defeat. Speak my mind all the time. What comes out my mouth, it ain't always kind. I'm not scared of being thrown in this place. That's how life is, it's like shit in the face. Thrown in this place and it feels so wrong. Now I have to accept this is where I belong. Thrown in this place and it feels so wrong, but now I have to accept this is where I belong.
You have to put the prawns and the spring onions first, so they can fry for a little while, and then after that you just put everything else in.
In here, like, you get a chance to learn. If you want to learn, you learn. If you don't, mainstream school, you ain't got a chance. You just gotta just take how it is, innit?
Forget the future, man. You're thinking about the day that's gonna add up to your future. Whatever you do in that day, it's gonna add up to your future. Forget the future, just think about the day.
If anyhow we had a project like Beneath the Hood in our school, I think that would have seriously produced more successful people.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that glitch in the middle. I was trying to juggle too many things, too many screens going on. Okay, I'm back to Keynote now. I'm just going to play it like that. Okay, so more recently, in 2018, I collaborated with 13-year-old girls. Let me put it into full screen. That's better. Yeah, so I collaborated with 13-year-old girls and a group of women who've experienced domestic violence to make a short film poem. So together, we imagined a world where women are equal, there is no abuse, and you're free who you want to be. I invited a costume designer and a poet to work with us, and through a series of devising workshops, we created 3 goddesses, each representing either mind, body, or soul. And I thought for this one, I would play you the film in full. Hopefully you're getting a good viewing experience, and the sound is coming through okay. I'm just trusting that's all good. So it's only 3 minutes long. This is not on my website, so I thought I'd give you a a sneak preview to the full film.
My house may look oversized in a field surrounded by trees and overgrown ivy. Detached, voluptuous, with the blinds pulled shut. From the front it appears no one is home. But as you get closer to the pillar box red door, my heart decides whether to let you in.
A goddess who connects to a high vibration in mind, body and spiritual soul. I am a goddess today. A goddess who has learnt from a violent past, moves forward with knowledge and grace. I am a goddess today.
Let me open the door, just for a brief while. Let you in to show you what is truly in here. Come on in. No, wait. On one condition. You can only enter with love, kindness, and peace.
Women who wear crowns are always queens. They know what to do in the morning. They know who to meet and who is coming when. Women who wear an elaborate collar are queens of the mind. They know how to make the world a better place without branding, suffering, and turning life into hell. A goddess who walks on the road, shouts in the street, clears the air with an African violet. I am a goddess today. A goddess who dances on volcanic ash, moves without rules in obsidian black. I am a goddess today.
Treat my body, my home, like a snowflake in springtime. Wrapped in blossom, birdsong, cupcakes cooling on the landing. Let's go outside to the crystal-filled garden. Choose a lavender rose. That's my gift to you, to share this time, this space.
Okay then. So in 2012, I was invited to make a short film in response to pages of poetry that was submitted online by young deaf people around the UK. So I adapted the poetry into a film script that features fictional characters inspired by the text. I also collaborated with young deaf Londoners to make the film. And for this, I'm just going to show you a little clip from this, and just to give you a flavour.
Talk, the same old life. I want it full.
I don't get it. Calling me for tea, calling at the door, calling behind my back. I don't want to hear it. I'm just disappointed and disappointed. My phone can say to me that, but I can't hear the word. I don't get it. I'm deaf. I have got to step who I am. I want to be free to the same. Include me in the well. Be done with that stuff. Hearing nothing all well. But that's not all of me.
Every night I ask myself, why am I deaf? Is the answer far in Mars? Or maybe it's in all the way in the stars? There's something going wrong in outer space. The answer might be in a different place. There is nothing wrong with me. I am deaf.
What do you feel like? Okay then. So the next identity chapter I've called Fear, Othering and Identity. So growing up with a Chinese dad and a white English mum in Shrewsbury in the 70s and 80s, I was often made to feel different. But different to who? Well, the majority, I guess, who in my school were virtually all white. On the rare occasions when my dad came to pick us up from school, it was bittersweet. I was excited that Dad had come to get me and my brother, but also filled with dread at the name calling and remarks that were heading our way. Chinese, Japanese, dirty knees, what are these? Chinky, chinky Chinaman. A continual reminder that you're different. You're not one of us. You're the other. In 2014, I began an exploration into the idea that we create our monsters through fear. If we don't understand it, then we demonize it. So taking Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and the story premise of a stranger comes to town, I began a journey of improvised filmmaking projects, exploring how a small estuary community responds when a mysterious creature appears in the mud at low tide. So I spent 5 days working in the Barbican's Pit Theatre, which is their black box studio theatre, and I got some funding from the Arts Council, and I invited 18 collaborators to work with me over those 5 days. So 5 of those were actors, actors who we cast because they had a background in improvised theatre and devising. And this is Anna Miriam Marinka, who was in a film that won the Palme d'Or at Cannes. She's called 4 months, 3 weeks, 2 days. Definitely worth checking out, really good film. So we were doing kind of like improvisation exercises, sort of classical from the like theatre toolbox, if you like. Also had a production designer in the room who was working with very rudimentary materials, as you can see there, working with cardboard there. That was me working with a cinematographer who I'd collaborated with on a number of projects, but he was very much used to working in a film industry kind of setting. So even though we were all out of our comfort zones very much on day one, John was particularly out of his comfort zone because I was starting off the workshops by saying, okay, we're going to all get in a circle and share how we're feeling and then do some warm-up games. And he was like, oh, can I just go set up the lights? So it was quite an interesting meeting of industries. We had live musicians in the room, which was also an interesting challenge, particularly on day one. The actors, they weren't very happy with it. They said, how can we concentrate and devise these characters with these musicians making all this racket? But then they started to get used to each other, and then the actors actually enjoyed having the music in the room and the sort of responding to each other in this kind of like almost like a call and response pattern. And the musicians were responding to what the actors were doing, but because you can see from that image, they couldn't always see the actors, so sometimes they were hidden by this kind of like scenery. So yes, there was elements of chaos and chance. But after having worked together, by day 3, we all kind of like found a way of working together, which was really exciting, because we were trying something different. None of us had done this before. So we just like opened ourselves up. By day 2, we were building trust, and by day 3, we sort of like began to found the language that we were going to use to create some stuff together. We had a lot of tech in the room as well. We had, you can see here, we had live editing going on. We had like live music recording and mixing going on. This is when we were filming one of the scenes. And so like within a day, we might sort of break it up, do a bit of like improv stuff, and then we would do some like a making workshop. So I was quite keen that it wasn't just the acting that was leading the improvisation. Sometimes it was the music, sometimes it was the set design. So here we have a costume workshop going on in terms of, you know, creating our own monsters. What does that look like? So we had fun, kind of like just monster making. And this is Francis, who was kind of doing music and editing. So sometimes he would shape the improvisation as well. So in the middle of some an improvisation exercise, he might then just throw in like some pre-recorded sounds of weather, for example. We were drawing on the Gothic quite a bit, and so he might throw in the sounds of thunder or rain, and then, you know, unknowingly to the actors or the musicians, and then they would have to respond to that. So that was quite good fun. So we'd very much create this kind of like lab vibe, which was really exciting. And so by the end of day 5, this was us looking very pleased with ourselves, because you can imagine, through having gone through that really intense process over 5 days, by the time you reach the end of day 5, and we'd made some interesting stuff. Yeah, we all loved each other and we were on a real high. So then myself and Francis, the editor, we spent just 3 days editing 3 scenes together. And then in true kind of like scratch style, we showed the films at the Barbican Cinema to an audience. So it was nerve-wracking, but we were still buzzing off a high. And yeah, we got really good response. And then we spent another 10 days in the edit suite, editing the whole film together, which was a 20-minute film. So I can play you a little clip from that film, because it's quite different in tone to the other stuff that you've seen.
船夫是谁？夜夜噩梦，乘船，乘船。船夫是谁？船夫是谁？夜夜噩梦，乘船，乘船。船夫是谁？船夫是谁？
Okay, hopefully you all heard that okay. And I think that's where the headphones would really come in handy, because it's got this really low bass, frequency bass in it. So you only really pick it up with headphones. So hopefully it wasn't too abstract. Okay, so the third section of the identity chapters is identity and place. So I don't know, some of you might know that last year I completed like a 1-hour documentary that I've made in collaboration with young writers in Sheffield. The film is about an hour long. The film sees us go on a quest together to find out the meaning of Britishness. We started filming in the summer of 2018, and then we completed the film last year, 2019. We filmed like interviews with Majid when he was Lord Mayor of Sheffield, and we filmed interviews with Otis Mensah, who's the Poet Laureate of Sheffield and hip hop artist, and other people, and we put together, and the young people wrote poetry in response to the themes. So it was only going to be a relatively short film, but because of the nature of the subject and the contentions around Britishness that we've been exploring, particularly, you know, since the EU referendum, felt in order to do that theme justice, it had to be a longer film. So it ended up being an hour, and it's had a really good response. It premiered at Off the Shelf Festival last year, and different cinema, well, until we had lockdown and the COVID-19 broke out, it was going to be showing in quite a lot of different cinemas around the country. So I'm currently looking at the possibilities of doing an online screening with a Q&A, something like that. So it's kind of like quite interesting. We don't really come to a conclusion by the end of the film, but what is interesting is like witnessing the young people particularly going through like a real live journey and kind of exploring these notions of nation identity as they go through the project. So I've got a taster reel that shows a couple of, I think 3 clips from the film, which you should have a look at. So this is not on the website, so this is sneak preview stuff.
What does Britishness mean to you?
I'm like quite reluctant to call myself British, even though I was born here, I was raised here, spent all my life here. Because sometimes I think, because of the history of it all, like I'm reluctant to attach myself to that or want to belong to that. Then again, it's home to an extent as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Obviously my family were born in Somalia as well. I consider myself Somali, sometimes hyphen British, mostly Somali.
My initial associations with Britishness, I think it's quite a word that has lost some of its humanity in terms of like the historical history of it, and I kind of link being British to kind of an imperial idea of like colonialism or whatever. But for me, this Sheffield and being born here has like a warmer feel to it. So I definitely feel that I'm from Sheffield. My family live here, the people that I love, the community that I was raised amongst. So I affiliate myself more with being Sheffield or like based in the north. I don't really think of ideas of Britishness or nationality, I think, until it's presented to me in terms of like a tick box or like as a passport. But I definitely feel rooted somewhat to this country.
Am I British? Second generation, mum originated from Ireland, dad half Irish, half Asian, British. I find the word hard to distinguish, like does it mean English or does it mean living in Britain? I feel like Britain allows you to be British if it suits it. Work a 9 to 5, declining crime, find the time to light the skies, be polite to other Brits but be fine to hide if it doesn't mix. You have to fit the British criteria, if not you're inferior and pushed out to exterior.
You know what, go. What?
Making this film about Britishness and what it means to be British.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on that topic?
Well, obviously I'm British on the way I was brought up in
England society at school and stuff, but then my Jamaican came out at home and among my peers. I'm a black man, so a lot of people don't really see me as a British man. They just see me as a black man. They say, oh, where you from? I said, England. I said, no, but where you really from? So, yeah, I know that I'm not really from here.
What about when you go back home though? Do you think they embrace you differently?
Yeah, they call me Englishman.
Yeah, exactly. I said this the other day. When we're here, we're not English when we're backyard, innit?
Yeah.
You are English.
Yeah.
It's interesting when people ask me, you know, how I see myself, because I think about how other people see me, and I think some days when I walk into, I don't know, a cafe full of white people, I think they see me as a black person. And then I think when I'm around my black friends, they see me as mixed or light-skinned, but perhaps not black.
A little wage slavery, go ahead and let me be. States built off the backs of refugees, we vilify and preach. Food plants to food stamps to slave plantations to concentration camps, carrying this trauma in my DNA. I had a name, but you gave me a color. Pioneers of capitalizing off the back of Pangea, while I'm tick boxing over.
Why don't you want me here? Why must we live in fear? Why must my blood stay?
What does Britishness mean to me? Eating Sunday dinner, mashed potatoes, gravy, sprouts.
Do you think in a way with you like moving up to...
Okay, I'm just going to stop it there because I'm aware I'm running out of time. So I just want to try and wrap up relatively cleverly. So it brings us, I mean, after making that film now, I'm very interested in exploring what it means to, I think, beyond a national identity. So that's why when I, at the beginning of the talk, I posited the idea of this like global pandemic. You know, is there any way that we get a glimmer of that bringing us together, even though countries are very much kind of like shutting down and trying to have a national response? We all having this shared experience. So does that tap in any way to an idea of being global citizens? So that's kind of themes that I'm really interested in now. In terms of the purpose and the role of the artist, particularly in the role of the artist right now, some of you might know that I set up the Social Art Network in 2016, and in 2018 we had a Social Art Summit in Sheffield, which was an artist-led review of socially engaged arts practice. And Site Gallery were one of the partners, and it was across 12 venues in the city. We had over 300 artists and arts practitioners come along, so it was amazing. We had labs and we had other workshops on When Open Cool. We had international speakers. Black Quantum Futurism came over from Philadelphia. We had film screenings, open kitchen and food hall, sort of Sheffield-based community food services, food hubs. They provided lunch and dinner. We had a publication launch, and now we have our own social art publications. So if you go onto the Social Art Network, you can actually, we bought 100 ISBNs. So if you are interested in publishing Helen Kilbride, you might be interested in this. Even if you just want to publish a pamphlet or a zine, it doesn't have to be a full-on book. You can get in touch and use one of our ISBNs, and we can publish it together. And then now there are meetups, social art meetups that happen around the country. These are just a few of them. And we meet up monthly in Sheffield. So we had our first online meetup last week. So if any of you are interested in joining those meetups, yeah, give us a shout in the chat, and I'll put your email address on the mailing list. So obviously for me, being involved in art and social practice, social engagement, for so long, really, I've, in terms of that kind of like genre of art, has a very clear sort of purpose and a sense of what the role of the artist is, actually to be useful and to help bring about change. So, that can be very, grand change on a systemic societal level, or on a community-based level, or it can be like on a very, very personal, intimate level. Because I think a lot of my projects, although I'm working in big groups collaboratively, the change that those projects kind of seek to bring about are maybe more personal, private changes, particularly for young people. So we see in these instances art having a lot of agency, and even just as artists setting up that social art network, we built agency for the practice, and now it's actually people are referring to the social art network as a movement, which is amazing. So as part of my practice, I see network building as very much part of my practice, but that's not the only role of an artist. You know, I don't think all artists work like that in that way, and they shouldn't always work in that way by any means. I think other artists might be sort of more reflecting and more observant, more like poet, working in poetry, working in more philosophy, working in more theoretical ways. So I just wanted to end with that very famous quote from Nina Simone about the artist's duty. And I thought I'd let her say it in her own words, because this is an amazing bit of film footage.
An artist's duty, as far as I'm concerned, is to reflect the times. I think that is true of painters, sculptors, poets, musicians. As far as I'm concerned, it's their choice. But I choose to reflect. That to me is the definition of an artist.
There you go, great stuff. So I'm gonna end there. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen because I share anything I don't want to. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Eelyn, for that. You can't hear the clapping, but everyone's clapping.